Hello, welcome back to another video on my thoughts on the current comic book market. I'm shooting this video mid-March 2020. Okay, so we are in a nasty downturn in the financial market. As far as the comic book market, we are in uncharted water. In the stock market, often many professional or people that invest in the stock market, you don't have to be a professional, but a lot of people that do their homework always look back at history to see, what happened and how things unfold. That's why you hear me and other professional on TV talk about, when there's a recession, the stock market tend to crash around 40%, blah, blah, blah. We give out percentage, we give out ranges because we go back in history and we see a lot of examples of those kind of event happen and how things unfolded. Okay, now with the comic book market, that is not so easy. Sure, all of us like to look back at history to try to find some kind of correlation, something that we can draw some kind of reference as far as what happened in the last crash. Well, the problem is the last economic crash that we have is 2008, 2009, 2010. That's where the stock market crashed in 2008 and 2009. The problem is if you look back at the history of the hobby, okay, it's not so easy to draw any kind of concrete conclusion. For those that was in the market, was in the hobby, I'm pretty sure you didn't see a big downturn in a lot of big books in 2008 through 2010. I returned to the hobby in 2008 and I can tell you, sure, there was no big spike in big keys. Amazing Fantasy 15 was pretty much in a very tight range, flat lines, maybe depend on the books, depend on the key, the grade. It can go down 10% here and there, but there is no 25-30% crash. I'm sure there is for those that want to dig through hundreds of keys. You might find a few examples of some keys that crash 25 or 30%, but if you go with the big one like the Hulk 181 or the Amazing Fantasy 15, you don't see that big of a crash in the big keys in the 2008-2009 economic recession. And a big part of it, go back to what I have been saying for many times on my channel, is that those books didn't go up a lot. Okay, what happened in 2015 through 2018 is that many big keys exploded, double, triple over a 3 to 4 year span. Unsustainable. That's why they crashed hard in 2019. Now, if I look back in 2008, the hobby was very different back then. Okay, I remember joining the CGC forum, and I remember even at the bottom of the economy in 2009, 2010, where layoff was exploding, pain was widespread to many people, you don't see a lot of doom and gloom talk about the death of the hobby, the end of the hobby as we know it, because the world economy was crashing. You didn't see that. I see talk about crashing more on high grade 9.8 bronze slab. For those that was in the hobby and was active on the CGC forum, correct me if I'm wrong. Back in those years, 2008, 2009, and 2010, a lot of the discussion on crashing tend to relate to high grade like 9.6, 9.8 bronze age books, because many copies of those high-grade books, I submit many of those, started to explode in census. You know, you have 9.8 Bronze Age X-Men that used to have 2 or 3 or 5 copies in the census. Next thing you know, they double. And all of a sudden, you know, the price on many of those books crash. And if you go to GPA, pick say an X-Men 125, you know, like a random John Byrne book, and take a look at what the 9.8 did in 2005, 2006, 2008, all the way to 2010, you see many of those books crash hard in 2008 through 2010 from much higher level in previous years. So there was a crash, and a lot of talk is about how high-grade Bronze Age books are common as dirt. I read that kind of comment so many times during those years on the CGC forum. And then there are other talk about a crash in the market, because a lot of people was fearful that, oh my God, you know, the baby boomer is going to be leaving the hobby, and you're going to have a bunch of massive collections hitting the market, and the market cannot absorb. Pedigree is going to be everywhere. There's going to be all kind of pedigree. That didn't come out through. I remember, you know, sure, in 2008 through 2010, I think between Heritage, comicconnect, and comiclink, I think they brought out 4 pedigree or 5 in like a 3-year span. So it seemed like, oh my God, you know, all this huge collection from long-time collectors are just coming out of the woodworks. Next thing you know, that didn't pan out. The market didn't crash. The market was able to absorb a lot of the inventory, right? So when you look at back at the history, we are really in uncharted water, because what we have right now is something that the hobby has never seen before. Okay, it's gonna be a good piece of information for all of us to study. Okay, it's one of those things where, you know, I'm not smart enough to understand or to predict what's gonna happen to the market, but I believe we are in an environment where it's really have not seen or experienced by many people. Okay, I'm sure those that have been in the hobby a long time may agree, I don't think everybody will be in agreement with me as far as this is somehow unique. I say it is unique. I believe this is very unique, because we have never had something like this before, where books spiked so much in the previous 3 years prior to 2019, and then the market has changed significantly. Okay, the market today is very different from the market of 2008, 12 years later. It might be shocking for a lot of people that, well, it should be a shock to a lot of people that modern submission is a bigger percentage now compared to 2008. Is that a surprise? Not really, right? The one thing that might be a big surprise to a lot of people is signature series. A lot of people thought that once Stan Lee passed away, there will be a decline in yellow label signature submission. Not so. Not so whatsoever. For those that want to do the homework, you can go to CGC Data, that website that I have highlighted a few times. Perhaps I will do a separate video to show the data. Submission for yellow label has exploded, especially in 2019. Yeah, I already talked about how total submission for CGC hit record high in 2019, even with the declining market. Okay, so it's a record year for many area of CGC except for restoration label, thankfully, right? So the market has changed significantly. The makeup of the market has changed significantly. Anyhow, that's my thought on this current comic market, is that we are in uncharted water. There's no way to look at the past to try to draw any kind of prediction. I can't. I don't know what's going to happen because I have never seen something like this before. I have seen plenty of recession. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.